apologize, I don't have the bill draft number in front of me, but along that same line, when you start looking at businesses coming to Nevada, there was a time where we had minimum wage of $5.15 an hour, and that was lower than anyone else, and so we appropriately said, you know, we're going to increase our minimum wage in Nevada, but I think we went one step well beyond that, and we said, and whatever the federal minimum wage is, we're going to add $1 to that plus the cost of living. And so it went up like that, so the feds did what they did, except slower than what anybody else does. I know that's a shock to some of you. But they increased the minimum wage a lot, and then we went one step beyond that, or $1 beyond that. And so when you start looking at the intent that the people had who voted for the increase in minimum wage, I don't think they intended for the federal government to increase their minimum wage, and then we leapfrog over that $1. So you're getting back to your point about people who are from other states who are coming to Nevada as a business, which is what we're interested in doing, is when you have the minimum wage higher than your surrounding states by far, you then have to pencil that out as a business and say, do you want to be in St. George or do you want to be in Mesquite? And that's a pencil thing. And then you say, let me see about this. And so that's one of the things that I would like to see happen, is give the voters the opportunity to choose if they would like to go back to a competitive minimum wage that will allow businesses to have more of an opportunity to come to Nevada. And I'll find that later in my BDR number search. Okay, this is, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
But you also recognize, and I think you do, it's more than just the minimum wage where companies decide not to come here or they go to Utah, correct? Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a piece of the puzzle. It's certainly not limited to that.
And then for you and Crescent, the prevailing wage, Crescent has spoken to our group a lot of times, but I think one of the mistakes that is made, a lot of people don't know what prevailing wage is and they don't want to ask the question. But Crescent, you gave one good example, and so did the gentleman up front, how that impacts the citizens. I think you have to do more of that. You have to say, if we know who's voting against it, you have to convince people why they should be for it. And in order to do that, you have to give examples of, we could have built more schools if we didn't have that. And I think that's what's missing. Most people just need some common sense examples.
One of the common sense examples would be education. So for instance, if somebody said, we need more money for education, we need to educate our children better, we need to have our schools and our teachers and our principals have the support that they need to recruit the people to stay in the process, to stay as a teacher, etc. If you say that argument and you recognize that there's about 18% or 19% of the money that could be saved by not doing prevailing wage, and make that accessible to the funding of education, and that's what Crescent talked about, is exempting schools from prevailing wage, for instance, that little bite of the apple, as it were. If you exempted the schools from that and kept that savings and plowed that back into an accountable education, you've just found a whole lot of money that you can use and put it back into our future. I think that's a good example myself. Thanks, Chris.